The fourth Boston College offensive lineman to enter the NFL draft made his intentions known on Tuesday. We're going to talk all about Tyler Vrabel's decision on today's Locked On Boston College.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. Thank you all for joining us. And thank you for all of you out there that have made Locked On Boston College your first listen every morning. If you have made this podcast part of your daily routine, I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone who supported our podcast. We wouldn't do this without you. With me today, I have Mitchell Wolfe. Mitch is a staff writer at BC Bulletin. He does a whole lot of other side work that he'll be able to tell you a little bit about in a second. But we're going to talk about Tyler Vrabel, who shockingly entered the NFL draft on Tuesday. I think caught a lot of people by surprise. And he's going to be the fourth Boston College offensive lineman on that starting five that's entering the draft. Mitch, let's talk about Tyler's decision. What were your thoughts when you first heard that?
I said to you that I was very shocked by this. I didn't expect it to be real especially because the deadline to file your declaration papers was technically yesterday, on Monday, January 17th. So that news came out a day late. So I was like, oh, this probably isn't real given that deadline. But there's going to be some confirmation from other sources that this is indeed happening. And I'm just very surprised and puzzled because typically players, if they do declare early, they're declaring early because they're coming off a very good season where they've dominated their competition. And I think, to put it kindly, that's not exactly what happened with Tyler Vrabel this season.
Yeah, so let's go back into Tyler's history. So obviously, son of Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Vrabel. I've had a couple non-BC friends of mine ask me, they're like, hey, is Tyler Vrabel related to Mike Vrabel? Yes, it's his son. So he comes to Boston College out of Texas in 2018. He redshirts that freshman year, and then Steve Addazio throws him right into the fire at tackle as a freshman. And he's part of that offensive line that plays really well behind AJ Dillon and David Bailey as they rush for 3,600 plus yards. And the future looks really bright for Vrabel. You head into 2020. You know, you got the Phil Dracovic year. It's the COVID year. Things are weird. Vrabel plays all 11 games for Boston College, gets hurt after the season. It's reported that he got hurt, but played through it. That's why they moved Zion Johnson around a little bit to kind of help him out a little bit. He plays that season. This season, he plays 10 games, again, gets banged up again, and has one of the lower Pro Football Focus rankings on the offensive line. Mitch, go into the history. What were some of the things that stood out to you about Vrabel's time at Boston College?
I think from the beginning of Vrabel's time, you could tell that he was an incredible athlete for an offensive lineman. Just his movement skills, his ability to get out of his stance quickly, and kind of negate speed rushers just by being able to get in their way and preventing them from getting around the corner to the quarterback. And that's what you need out of a left tackle, and that's great. And he displayed that as a redshirt freshman in 2019. I mean, he started every game at left tackle and he didn't allow any sacks, which is very impressive for a guy in his first year starting. And then kind of, the next year he flips over to the right side. He's fine. Again, they're not running the ball as much. It's a lot more pass blocking. He's still pretty solid over there. But there were times when he went up against NFL talent. Like, you think about the Pitt game, there were a good amount of struggles there. And then this season was kind of the same. The first few games he was dominant because there was lesser competition. Temple game, he had a lot of trouble. There was one play where a Temple defensive end just put him flat on his back, and he got hurt kind of into the Clemson game. And that was kind of why he struggled so much. But they have a lot of really talented players, and he was not at his best then either. But my biggest kind of concern with Vrabel in terms of from a scouting perspective is that at this point, it seems like he still needs to get more powerful. And that given the injury history, it might be kind of just lingering effects if it's an upper body injury, which I think it might have been. So that's kind of affecting his ability to, one, aggressively attack defensive linemen in the run game and, get them moving backwards. And then in the passing game, it's preventing him from striking and then just being able to hold up in pass protection.
Yeah, this one just it just struck me as so weird because we've seen Vrabel 2 years in a row playing banged up, and you would think that he'd want to get some good film out there because, as you said, he has all the raw talent to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And one good season, especially one where he could have been the anchor of that offensive line along with Christian Mahogany, and to give it up, I'm just curious. Do you think he must have gotten some scouting reports or something that must have said, hey, maybe an agent got in his ear? So, I mean, I don't know. Why? What are some of your experiences, Mitch, with hearing about why guys like Vrabel jump out so early?
I mean, it's honestly usually the opposite that you hear. Like you hear certain players, like the one I remember was Tyler Vrabel, who was a center from Wisconsin. He's now the starting center for the Dallas Cowboys. And he was a very hot prospect coming out. But for some reason, they told him to go back because the NFL Draft Advisory Board gave him a day 3 grade. And eventually he did fall in the draft, but that was more because of a hip injury. But he's been starting for the Cowboys for 2 seasons now, and he's been a really good player, like most, kind of draft people expected. With Vrabel, it's very strange for me because, I would think that given his relationship to Mike Vrabel, obviously, and then, kind of being able to get in contact with NFL personnel, I would expect him to be getting the best and most accurate information possible. And I mean, granted, I don't consider myself, an absolute expert because, I do a lot of this stuff kind of for free, so nobody's paying me. But, there must be people who are getting paid that see his game, be like, oh, this guy is ready to be an NFL player, and are telling him that. So I would have to imagine somebody's telling him that. Based on what I've seen, I would disagree with that assessment. But again, there are people who get paid a lot more money to do this work, so they must see something, I guess.
Yeah, it's just one of those, you think back to some of the players at Boston College that have gone out early, and it's been hit or miss. Like AJ Dillon obviously was a good move for him to go out early. You got guys like Hamp Cheevers. That was a massive failure.
I mean, the thing about Hamp is that like he was never going to have a better season than he did that year.
Yeah,
so that's kind of what I'm talking about. Is like you want to capitalize when you want to strike while the iron is hot. And honestly, like if Vrabel had declared last year, I would have been like, okay, like he had a pretty good year. Like I get it. This year, I just don't because of the injury. With some players do it because they're an older prospect, just kind of with the way their birthdays lie and the way their red shirts happened. They declare because they're like, oh, I'm turning like 23. I got to get out. With offensive linemen, teams don't really care about that as much because athleticism isn't as much of a thing for that. Another reason is like sometimes players will do it. Like I think it was Peyton Barber, who's now running back for the Raiders and has been around the league for a while. And he just said like he declared early and people were like, he's not that good. He's like, listen, like my family like needs the money now. So I had to declare. And I can't imagine that's a problem for Tyler, given that, his dad is an NFL head coach and has been an assistant and played in the NFL for a very long time. So I can't imagine that's the reason. But I don't want to assume financial situations, but that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And, I guess he probably got his degree by this point, given that he's a redshirt junior. He's been at the school for 4 years. So I am surprised, maybe he didn't really love the coaching and the blocking schemes they're asking him to do. And he's like, listen, and with that, I would say like, maybe just transfer, like, find a, if he maybe wants to go to a G5 program that's closer to Tennessee where his dad works, something like that, Middle Tennessee State, I'm sure would love to have him, or, Western Kentucky, something like that. So, if he wanted to leave, I would have said, okay, like hit the transfer portal. Like you'll definitely succeed at some G5 program, or maybe even at like Vanderbilt or something, because I mean, they're not the greatest team, but he could probably play there. So again, I'm pretty puzzled by this. But it gives us a chance to get a look at some of the younger guys who are some really highly touted recruits.
And my last thoughts on that, I think we kind of alluded to it at the beginning. The timing of it is just really weird because, right after the bowl was canceled, even before the end of the season ended, you got that flood of we're done. The season's, we're over. You had Alec Lindstrom declaring for the draft, Josh DeBerry not declaring. You had everyone making their moves. And then, like, it felt like a month later, you have Tyler Vrabel make this decision. It just seemed really kind of odd that the timing of it. I'm not going to get into any reasons why. I have no clue. I'm not going to guess. It's not really professional to do that. Just thought it was weird. I thought the timing of it was really weird.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
All right. In a moment, we're going to move past Tyler Vrabel and look at the offensive line, who are now going to have 4 new starters heading into the 2022 season. We'll talk about how concerning that's going to be and how Boston College should address it with the guys on their roster or looking elsewhere. It's a new year, so that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure to include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Maybe even better than a candy bar, because this is a protein bar that is 100% covered in chocolate. It's easy to eat, tastes good. You're gonna want to eat it. I don't like other protein bars that are talky, waxy, or just plain gross. you're going to be reaching for a Built Bar, looking for more of them every single day. I do. I look for one every 2:30 to give me the energy I need to go through the rest of my day. The best part of the Built Bars is so many delicious flavors. Whether you try their OG flavors like cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, raspberry, peanut butter brownie, and there's many more, or you go for their specialty flavors. They have ones that they come out with, once or twice a week that you need to check out at Built.com. So head on over to Built.com and then use promo code LOCK15 and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. We're talking about Tyler Vrabel and his decision to head to the 2022 NFL Draft. I'm joined by Mitch Wolfe. Before we get into that, I want to recommend that everyone out there hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Just look up Locked On Boston College. All our episodes go up there. You can talk to us. You can talk to other Boston College fans in the comments section. It's a great way to share and be in connection with other BC fans. So hit Locked On Boston College on YouTube. So Tyler Vrabel's gone. Zion Johnson's gone. Alec Lindstrom's gone. Ben Petrula's gone. And Christian Mahogany is left on the island all by himself. Mitch, let's start off by asking the big question here. How damaging is this for Boston College that they've lost 4 starting offensive linemen heading into next year?
I think it's concerning. And I think the bigger reason is kind of something I talked about with Alec Lindstrom, in that you're just losing chemistry and experience and kind of just ability to recognize certain things that you're not going to have with guys who are less experienced. They may have more natural talent, more athletic ability, more strength, what have you. But there's just gonna be things they miss because they haven't played as much. So if there's any background noise, it's my cat. I'm sorry, he's being annoying. But anyways, I got to give credit to Steve Adazio and Jeff Haffa. They've recruited at the offensive line position very well in the last few years. So BC is definitely not lacking in terms of depth and talent on the offensive line of guys who will be replacing these set of players.
So I think that at least 2 of the starters probably are set in stone, and that's going to be Drew Kendall at center, and that's going to be Ozzie Trapillo at guard. You add that
Christian Mahogany,
and Christian Mahogany, of course. Yeah. I mean, new starters. I think right. Drew Kendall and Trapillo. Now, looking at the other tackles, you have some question marks. Is it going to be Jack Conley? Jack Conley looked, frankly, really
abysmal,
rough in to the point where they had to bench him.
Yeah, it was not good.
In that first game he played. I think it was Syracuse he played in against, right?
Well, no, he played against Louisville the week before, and on his one play, he let up a sack, and then they benched him. And then he came back against Syracuse and still struggled. So it was not good.
And so he's a name to look for. Kevin Klein is another one. Many of you are like wondering who this guy is. He was a late commitment in 2020, I believe it was, for Boston College. Came in at 6'7", 360 pounds. Absolutely enormous. They've slimmed him down because you don't want your offensive lineman to be that big. But I've heard lots of great things about him at tackle. He could be someone to watch for. Kevin Pine is another name to watch for. And there's other players that you could also talk about, Mitch. Anyone that stuck out to you?
Yeah, so I still think that there's a decent chance that Trapillo gets a look at least at left tackle, given that he is 6'8" or 6'7", and typically you want your tackles to be a little taller than guards. For Dracovic, it doesn't matter as much because he's 6'5", but you typically want your guards to be shorter so the quarterback can see over the middle of the field easier.
Yep.
So I think Trapillo will get a look at left tackle. If not, left guard is totally fine for him. With regards to Conley, I wouldn't have minded seeing him at guard, given that the issues that I saw for him in pass protection were mostly about a lack of athleticism. So with that, you usually kick guys like that inside to guard. So maybe they move him to left guard. If not, maybe he's better at right tackle where he doesn't have to face as many speed rushers. And then at left tackle, obviously that is kind of the key position along any offensive line. And I think, like you mentioned, Kevin Klein, Kevin Pine, or is it Kevin? Yep. Is the other one? Are they both Kevins? Okay.
Kevin Pine. Yep.
Yeah. So, those guys were extremely highly rated recruits. They're both huge. So they didn't.
Oh, we lost Mitch for a moment. So he was talking about Kevin Pine and Kevin Klein. And those are 2 highly recruited linemen that you could bring back. Another name to watch for on the offensive line is Oh, I think we got Mitch again. Mitch, you were talking about Kevin Pine, Kevin Klein and Kevin Pine.
Yeah, sorry about that. My computer just crashed out of nowhere for no reason. So that was really cool. But yeah, the two Kevins, like I said, big dudes, have a lot of talent. Would be interesting to see them get a shot at left tackle. And the good thing about this is you have a lot of guys that'll be competing for these positions, and competition brings out the best in players. So, those guys will be giving it their all during fall camp, and, whoever plays the best will get the start. And if they start to struggle, you have guys behind them who, we're pushing them to do better, and they can come into the lineup if need be. And there's obviously your guy, Elijah Kragnovic, who probably won't be ready to get in the lineup yet, given his pretty new to football, but maybe next year he could be something special.
And one name that we haven't brought up that I think will be interesting to watch and makes sense that he stuck around is Finn Durstine, who has been around the program seemingly forever. He was a four-star offensive lineman. He's a guard. He's been second on the depth chart behind Mahogany seemingly for the last 2 years. And before that, I think he's been banged up and not been able to get in the lineup. But he could, if you're talking about a guy that's been around a while and waiting for his turn, he could be someone else that they could probably put in at guard as well.
Yeah, these are guys like these are ones I like to say, oh yeah, they've been around enough that they can rent their own cars at this point. Yeah. I mean, if they want to maybe put him at left guard and then, get Pilo at left tackle and Conley at right tackle, I think that could work. Like you said, Durstine's been around. I actually saw Finn Durstine at his recruiting visit when I was eating at Pino's Pizza once, which was kind of a funny thing. But anyways, yeah, I mean, he's like, we were kind of talking about him earlier in the offseason saying like he might transfer just because there isn't really a great opportunity for him with all these young guys, but now there's, been some openings, maybe he can actually get on the field for a significant part of the season, which would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, for a guy that's been around, it would be great for him. Now, here's a question I think a lot of people out there are going to want to know about. Are you so concerned that you think Boston College should address this depth issue on the transfer portal?
Not particularly, because I think it'll be hard to find. It's a little similar to what you talked about with quarterback. It's going to be kind of hard to find, a guy who, you're going to tell him, oh, you need to come in and compete for this position. And I like the guys that they have that are young, and I'd like to get them playing time earlier. So I'm satisfied with how the roster shakes out there right now in terms of guys who are willing and able to play, even if they are young and lack experience. Like, I want to get them on the field and see what they can do. So I'm if they do go out and do that, I'm not going to be necessarily opposed to it, because again, offensive line is a position group where, more depth is always good. But I'm not going to be heartbroken if they don't go out and get anybody.
Yeah, as I've said on the podcast a couple of times, I follow along with a lot of what the offers are going out. I'm honestly stunned at how quiet it has been on the transfer portal in terms of what Boston College is doing. I've talked to staff. There really hasn't been anyone that they've been pushing hard for. There may be a new name coming out sooner or later, but you see a team like Florida or it was LSU that I think has like 10 transfers. Boston College is not. Jeff Hafley's not BSing when he says that's not how he's building this team. He really is building this team with his development and high school guys. So right now, I agree with you. I don't think they're going to do it. They were the one transfer that I saw them linked to all off season has been that FIU offensive lineman, but that was it. And that was about 2 months ago. So I don't think BC is going to be doing that, but all the people that were concerned, and rightfully so, about the play of that offensive line last year, you're going to get your wish. You're going to get to see the guys, like that was the system of all the, those were all the Steve Adazio guys. They're all heading out now. You're going to get more of Jeff Hafley's guys infused in there. Drew Kendall's a Hafley guy. Some of these other guys are Hafley guys. Kevin Klein's a Hafley guy. It's going to be put up or shut up next year. And you'll get to see if it's an Applebaum issue or it's a talent issue. And that's going to be something interesting, I think, that we'll be talking about all next year on Locked On Boston College. Now, Mitch, any last thoughts before you go?
Nope, that's all I got. I mean, like I've been saying, we're kind of entering this postseason All-Star Game Bowl season. So we saw Ben Petrula in the Hula Bowl this past weekend, where apparently he performed quite well. So that's good for him. Former Boston College quarterback Anthony Brown did not perform as well, kind of a typical performance for him. But in a few weeks, I'll be heading down to Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl, where Zion Johnson will be competing. And I'll be really excited for that.
All right. Thank you for joining us, Mitch. In a moment, we're going to chat about, I'll chat about, excuse me, it's not a we. I'm going to be chatting about Boston College's first commitment in the class of 2024. It's a name, if you follow Boston College recruiting, you're going to be well aware of who that is. We'll be back in just a moment. This is it, the putt to win it all. If you sink it, the championship is yours, but on your backswing, your hat falls over your eyes. Is this how you're running your business? Poor visibility because you're relying on spreadsheets and outdated finance software to see the full picture? You need to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth. With visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR planning, budgeting, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow, all in one place. And with NetSuite, you can automate your processes and close your books in no time while staying well ahead of the competition. 93% of surveyed businesses increase their visibility and control after upgrading to NetSuite. Here's what you got to do. With over 28,000 businesses already using NetSuite for the new year, NetSuite has a new locked-on financing program for those ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/locked. Again, head to netsuite.com/locked for the special one-of-a-kind financing offer of the #1 financial system for your growing business. Again, once again, that is netsuite.com/locked. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. Now it's time to kick off some good old-fashioned recruiting news. For all of you out there that want to know what's going on with Boston College recruiting, you know to head over to bcbulletin.com, where I give free members all sorts of updates on Boston College recruiting. And for premium members, I give you interviews, predictions, everything you want to know, all the full picture for only a cup of coffee each month. So head over to bcbulletin.com if you want to get more info. Now, on Tuesday evening, Boston College landed their first 2024 commitment from Everett, Mass athlete Christian Zamor. Now, you may hear that last name if you're a recruiting head like myself. You're going to know, oh, Zamor, I know that. There's a guy named Ishmael Zamor that just committed to Boston College and signed in December. Yep. Ishmael Zamor is his older brother. Christian Zamor is a 6'2" athlete. He's not ranked yet, but again, I always preface this. The recruiting rankings usually only go with the senior class. So he's a sophomore heading into being a junior. Zamor has a long way to go, but he's an impressive player. And I think when you can bring in a family like the Zamors, that's a big deal because Christian is a speedy wide receiver from Everett. Zamor, he said to Tyler Calvaruso of 247.com, he wants to be a safety at Boston College, and his play reminds Jeff Hafley of Cam Chancellor. Now, I spoke to Christian Zamor on Tuesday night as well, so you'll get if you're a premium member, you'll get my full interview with him up on the site on Wednesday morning. But let's get into what Zamor means to Boston College. First commitment for the class of 2024. Boston College is just starting to kind of kick off the class of 2023, but we can look at both these classes as one interesting theme right now. There are 3 commitments in the class of 2023. That's Boubacar Traore, Datrell Jones, and Jaden Skeet. They are all 3 kids from Catholic Memorial in Massachusetts. Now, Christian Zamor, he is from Everett, Massachusetts. 4 players, all from the Bay State. That shows you something that I think should impress you, that there's 4 guys already committed to Boston College in the next 2 classes from Massachusetts. As I've said all along, Jeff Hafley is not going to just grab every kid from the Bay State to bring to Boston College. That's just setting up this team to fail. However, there's good talent here, and he's going to do his best to grab every single recruit that he can get that's interested in Boston College into Chestnut Hill, and he did it again. You got the Zamor family. I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't the only family of recruits from Massachusetts that sends multiple kids to BC. Another name to watch for are the Griffin families. Joseph Griffin, as I've said all along, is a wide receiver from Central Springfield who could play next year. I'm telling you right now, he could play next year. He's very, very good. He's got a younger brother, Josiah, in the class of 2023 who has a Boston College offer. So you could have the Zamors, you could have the Griffins. It just shows you, Steve Adazio talked about the importance of building a wall around Massachusetts. Jeff Hafley is living it. He's doing it. Now, I know Andrew Rappleyea just committed to Michigan, and you're going to miss guys. It's going to happen. There's a lot of really good talent coming in the next 2 years to Boston and to Massachusetts. Not all those guys are going to sign to to BC. Excuse me. However, if Boston College can get a majority of them, if they can get a good chunk of them, that's all you can ask for. If you lose a Rappleyea, but you gain Ronan Hannafin, another 4-star, or you gain Samson Alcanlola, you're in good shape. So there's a lot that they can do here. And grabbing Christian Zamor, there's nothing but good things you can say about this. When you read, if you're a premium member, what he says, you'll see right off the bat, Christian Zamor is a Boston College kid through and through. He's only a sophomore in high school. He's about to be a junior. But you can tell by the words he says and what he talks about, this kid is Boston College in his blood. And I think it's a great get for Boston College. I think he's going to be an excellent player for BC, someone you're going to want to know more about. So check out our work there. Thank you all for listening to Locked On Boston College. We'll be back again tomorrow. I didn't even get a chance at all this talk to preview the Louisville game. Boston College is playing Louisville tonight in basketball. We'll review the entire game on Wednesday's show, so make sure to check us out. Thursday's show, so make sure to check us out wherever you get your podcasts. This is AJ Black. You can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack_BC. You can follow the podcast at Locked On BC, and make sure to tell family and friends all about Locked On Boston College. I appreciate all of you that have helped spread the word. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you again soon.